Welcome, dear friends, to Tales of Gen X Terror, where we unpack the apocalyptic dread underneath the skin of late Cold War pop culture. My name's Neil, and I'm a little robot boy. Today we've got another pop song for you, and I've got to thank Patrick, who recommended this in the comments. If you've got a piece of pop culture to deconstruct, you should put it in the comments, because that's the only way I'll know you're thinking about it. That's the only way I might think about it myself. First, a little background. Sting was the lead singer of a band called The Police that started up in the 1970s and had really catchy tunes about some potentially creepy subjects like Roxanne, which was a love song about a guy who will save you from a life of prostitution, Every Breath You Take, which is an anthem to stalkers all around the world, and Don't Stand So Close to Me, which is a ballad about a teacher who's really trying hard not to let things go too far with one of his students. By 1985, Sting released a solo album, The Dream of the Blue Turtles, and that's where you will hear songs like If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free, Fortress Around Your Heart, and today's song, Russians. The music for this song, Russians, is based on a segment of the Lieutenant Kijé suite from Prokofiev. Prokofiev, if you don't recognize that name, is the dude who composed Peter and the Wolf, which has that cool oboe bit for the duck, and maybe you know the Disney cartoon about that from maybe Fantasia. I don't remember where it was. Let's just dig into the song. I'll sing a verse, then I'll break it down. I'll sing another verse, and then I'll break it down, and we'll talk about it. In your abandon... Ooh, that is really high for my range, so I'm going to knock that down an octave. In Europe and America, there's a growing feeling of hysteria, conditioned to respond to all the threats in the rhetorical speeches of the Soviets. Mr. Khrushchev said, "We will bury you." I don't subscribe to this point of view. It'd be such an ignorant thing to do if the Russians love their children too. This is a really straightforward song about the feelings that we are feeling, that sort of giant fog of fear that covers us. If you don't recognize Mr. Khrushchev, that was Nikita Khrushchev, who was the big wig in the USSR from like the late 50s all the way to the early 70s. Definitely that was when the Cold War was really picking up. And interesting that Sting puts this "I don't subscribe to this point of view" line in there. He's definitely saying he's not behind Khrushchev. We spent so much time in the West, what would have been called the First World, avoiding any potential linkage with communism, Russia, all of that. That's kind of the whole Cold War deal. And what Sting is asking us to do is to feel a little bit of compassion for the enemy. Let's take a look at verse 2. How can I save my little boy from Oppenheimer's deadly toy? There is no monopoly on common sense on either side of the political fence. We share the same biology, regardless of ideology. Believe me when I say to you, I hope the Russians love their children too. So in this verse, Sting is talking about protecting his little boy, his son, I will assume his son, from Oppenheimer's deadly toy. Robert Oppenheimer was in charge of the Los Alamos base, which is where the Manhattan Project was stationed. He's often credited with the invention of the nuclear bombs back in the days. I can see in this verse also that Sting is really saying that neither side of this war is right. There's no monopoly on common sense on either side of the political fence. That means that the Americans, the Russians, they're both fakakta. We are all humans. We share the same biology, regardless of what we believe, because, we could be, capitalists, we can be communists, or we could be humans. And the Russians love their children. This verse starts with me thinking about my child, or Sting talking about his child, and hoping that the Russians also love their children. This is a song that is looking to create a little bit of compassion for the humanity of people on the other side of the war. There is no historical precedent to put the words in the mouth of the president. There's no such thing as a winnable war. It's a lie we don't believe anymore. Mr. Reagan says we will protect you. I don't subscribe to this point of view. Believe me when I say it to you. I hope the Russians love their children too. And here, the first verse we're criticizing Khrushchev. In the second verse, we're talking how both sides are wrong. The third verse, we're talking about Reagan, who was the end of the Cold War president right there, and he's also wrong. I don't love Ronald Reagan by any means, but in regards to the Cold War, he was definitely the person who had his finger on the trigger. He's definitely the person that we were afraid was going to start that war in America. I think we were afraid either side was going to start the war. In the long run, though, or at least as regards this song, Sting is hoping that we will come to our senses to keep any war from happening, because no one's going to win it. There's no such thing as a winnable war. It's a lie we don't believe anymore. That whole idea of mutually assured destruction was something we were feeling heavily through the end of this Cold War. There's not another verse, but we come back to a little tag that was present in an earlier verse. We share the same biology, regardless of ideology. But what might save us, me and you, is if the Russians love their children too. That there is the message of the song. We hope that we can be human, they can be human. We gotta come to a basic agreement about our essential humanity and hope that no one wants to start a fight, that no one gets to win. And that was how things felt in 1985 with Sting and Russians. If you've got a piece of pop culture from the late Cold War that you want me to be looking at, definitely put that in the comments. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Let me thank Patrick for recommending this song, because it was definitely cool to look at something I wasn't thinking about before. My name's Neil, and I will see you when the other shoe drops.